In terms of that story, for us, I was wondering if you would consider this story from the point of view of the servants. It's kind of interesting. They know they're out of wine, and yet what have they been told to do? Go get a bunch of water. And they got a bunch of water. If you heard it, it was 6 jars, 20 to 30 gallons each. That's 120 to 180 gallons of water. And mind you, they didn't hook this up to a spigot. They didn't run the garden hose here. They had to go get this water. So they had to carry it from the town square. No telling how far that was, but even if it was just a block down the road, it was a lot of effort. And so if you can put yourself in their shoes, I just wonder if they are a little confused. We're out of wine. Why are we hauling water? In other words, they're doing something that they've been commanded to do, and yet they don't see any connection between what they've been commanded to do and what they want, which is to solve the problem of the lack of wine. And if you think of it that way, I just wonder if there's not a wonderful application, maybe lots of applications for you and I. Do you and I not, in our spiritual life at times, we are told by the Lord to do things, and yet we don't seem to think that it has any bearing on our situation? I mean, for some of you, not today, I hope, but maybe in the past, or maybe you know people, they don't come to Mass. Why? Because they don't see that it makes any difference. That's probably one of the reasons why a large number of people, after the pandemic ended, they never came back to Mass, because they had gotten into the habit of not being here, and they suddenly sort of realized, well, this going to Mass thing, I wasn't getting anything out of it anyway. And so they never came back. They are been told to do something, and they can't see the connection between doing that and the really good life thereafter. Forgiveness would be another topic. We're told to forgive. That's a command of the Lord. And yet, if you've ever been hurt badly by somebody, forgiveness is probably about the least thing you want to do, because it doesn't seem like forgiving is going to help you. As a matter of fact, you may feel like, oh, I've been hurt, and I'm supposed to be giving, if you will, a gift to the person who hurt me. And so it would seem that there's a disconnect there. Giving is another one. If you get caught up in worldly desires and things like that, and where you need money for vacations and nice cars and stuff like that, well, this command of the Lord, hey, you need to be generous to the poor, you need to give. That's not going to make any sense to you. Well, how is it if I give money away? How is that ever going to make me feel happy? How is that going to lead to what I'm after? And certainly for the teenagers, young adults here, if you are in that midst of dating, the Bible tells us an awful lot about how to handle relationships. And most of it is very countercultural. And it's very easy to get caught up and say, well, if I do what the culture tells me to do, then I will be happy. Things will go my way in terms of this area of my life. But if I do what God wants me to do, I'm thinking maybe there's a lot of lonely Friday nights in my future. This idea that what the Lord tells us to do doesn't seem to make sense. That's what the servants may have run into. But of course it does work. In the story, the water does turn to wine. And for those of us that have been around the spiritual block a few times, I can tell you absolutely that all those things I mentioned matter. You come to Mass week after week after week after week. I will admit, not all the homilies are good. Not all the music is always good. Maybe somebody even treats you badly. I will admit all that stuff happens. But coming week after week after week, it matters. It will make a difference in your life. And you might not even pick it up, much like if you decide one evening, well, I'm not going to eat dessert, and then you get on the scales the next day, you're not really going to see a loss of 5 pounds. But giving up dessert one day and another day and another day over time. It'll work. And that's what happens with Mass. That's also what happens with giving. Forgiveness, if you really take a look at what you're being asked to do, you'll find that forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's about you. It is a strategy for you by which you can take something awful and you can learn from it, and you may need to put some boundaries in place about it, but it is a strategy for you to say, well, that's in the past. It happened. I wish it hadn't happened, but it did happen, but it's over. And I am not going to live my life back there. I'm going to live my life going forward. All these things. And for the young adults, trust me, I appreciate it. I was a single guy for a long time before I became a priest. I know a lot about dating and the struggles between what people expect of you and what the Lord wants us to do. But I tell you, Lord's right about this. The Lord is absolutely right about it, just like he was right about that. You know, people, I don't know what they expected him to do, but go haul a bunch of water. Okay, I'll do what the Lord asks. It really comes down to a question of trust. Do you trust God? Do you trust God, or do you trust this society, or do you trust people that talk to you through podcasts and things like that, or do you trust yourself? Do you trust God? And I'm just here to tell you, God is trustworthy. It will always work out the way he promises. We do these things the best we can. Hopefully we get better at them over time. It'll make a difference in our lives. We'll end up with the thing that we all really want. We want that deep joy, that deep happiness, an abundant life, as Jesus called it. It awaits us. It is going to take some effort. It took a lot of effort to haul 180 gallons of water. It's going to take a lot of masses, a lot of giving, a lot of prayer to forgive. It's going to take a lot of that stuff, but it'll be worth it.